Hello, hello, hello. Good people. How is everybody doing tonight?
Hi,
Hope everybody
everyone.
is doing well. This is MG Live. Thank you so much for joining me. I am joined tonight by your favorite special guest, Munira Marshall. Everybody loves you, Munira.
I don't know about favorite,
Listen, you basically my only guest.
but it's okay.
So you have to be the favorite. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? Come on in. Give us a couple of seconds just to share this ourselves to our own page. But then, if you would be so kind as to do us a favor and click that share button and share to your platforms, we would be so grateful. We're just going to take maybe 30 seconds and let some more live viewers join us. And you can also visit my website if you want to watch the live there at mayagateway.com/mglive. You can certainly head on over there. But I will give my little intro because I never take for granted that people know who I am and are familiar with me. So my name is Maya Gatewood, and I am a marketing manager at my 9 to 5, and I am a freelance graphic designer kind of sort of moving over into the consulting space. And I also am the creator of MDGTs, which stands for Empress Design and Graphics t-shirts. What else do I do? I have my bachelor's and my master's degree in fine arts. And I'm also a blogger and all that stuff. And you can check out all the things on mayagateway.com. So, Munira, would you please intro yourself, let the people know where they can find you and all that good stuff?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. So, of course, my name is Munira Marshall. I am a mom first. I
Yes.
am a mom of two. I have a 14-year-old and now a 16-month-old, very busy little boy. I am a wife, coming up on our 3-year anniversary. I am also an educator. So my full time majority of my time outside of being a mom and a wife is also working in a school for Uncommon Schools, North Star Academy. I am the academy leader, fancy word for basically an assistant principal of culture. And outside of all of that, I also coach. I've been coaching for 14 years, coaching cheerleading, which is my outlet, my passion. And I could not forget that I am also a member of Bethlehem Judah Christian Fellowship Church of God in Christ. Woo, woo, woo.
Love it. Okay, so I think we can get started. I'm just going to real quick make sure this is on my website. Okay, cool. So we are talking about tonight the transitioning of relationships and all that encompasses, right? And that's friendships, romantic relationships, platonic relationships, coworker relationships,
Mhm.
whatever relationship it could be. People go through transitions, right? Because we are people, we're human, right? And we're individuals. So we all are going
Mhm.
to evolve and grow and experience different things in our life. And we might potentially grow further apart from each other. So I just want to read this post that I posted back in February, and it sparked a lot of conversation. So I was like, okay, this is a topic I think a lot of people can relate to. It started resonating and I think hitting home
I
with a lot of
posted
people. Back in February, and it sparked a lot of conversation. So I was sorry. um, I have a lot of tabs open. So sorry if you heard some feedback there. Um, but I wanted to just read the post to everybody and I wanted to just pick out a couple of key comments. So the post is, can we normalize seasons changing without drama, trauma, inauthenticity, gaslighting, and hurt?
mm,
People come and
mhm.
go, but the transition can be a little smoother, in my opinion. So I was sitting on a plane when this thought came to me, and I was just sitting there, on the taxi. We were taxiing down the runway, we're waiting to take off, and I was just evaluating kind of where I was in life, and just being reflective of the person that I am now and how I think some of the relationships in my life are going through a transition, and are actually changing. And this thought came to me, and I wanted to just pick out a couple of comments. So, Kiwan, who is a great friend of ours, who we actually went to go see recently, and that's why I was on the plane. So Kiwan said, "We learn," and I love this so much. We learn how to create relationships, but we're not taught how to end or transition them. So I thought that that was just, I mean, it's so short, but it's just like, boom, there it is.
Impactful.
Punch. Yes. So anything you want to react to there, Mo?
I think ultimately when I initially saw Kiwan's comment, it's true. We foster really good relationships with people who we love. I mean, especially if you are an extrovert like myself, I would think that I am an extrovert. I love people. It may not seem like it because I've been told that I might not be the best person when it comes down to like being approachable. But I always say that my heart is pure, and like when I connect, I connect. But ultimately, when you are extrovert and you build these relationships with people, it's like you build these relationships, especially when you're really genuinely authentic with them. You can be truly, genuinely transparent. And sometimes you can foster relationships that become like family in a sense. So sometimes creating these relationships can be like those, you think of it as a forever long-term commitment. You think of it as a forever friendship or family member that, you know what, I can grow with this person. I can, include this person into my life and, everything, if it be my personal, my professional world. But the part that stuck out to me from what he said is that we don't know how to transition from them. And I would say for myself personally, no, you don't know how to transition them because you're not thinking about trying to transition with anybody. You're thinking to foster and keep that connection and stay intact with that person. So why would I ever consider transitioning anything with that person? Here's the thing about me. I don't have to talk to everyone every day. We don't have to be around each other every day. And I have really great relationships, college friends, some professional friends in my career where we don't have to speak every day. And there are some that I actually speak to every day. But for the ones that I don't speak to every day, we always pick up where we leave off. There's always that cliffhanger, but also at the same time, like, remember when? Yeah, girl. Oh, I remember that. So it's like we always pick up to where we left off. There's never like this weird energy or this weird feeling like, yeah, you've been distant, so I got to keep my distance. So to the comment, no. I don't think of transitioning them. Yes, it's authentic to build and foster those commitments and those relationships in the beginning because it comes off of love, initially at the beginning. So that was my take on that. And I just thought that it was like, whew. I mean, I didn't think about transitioning relationships with someone. Like, why would I consider?
Yes. Question that came to my mind as you were talking about not speaking to people every single day. Is there the risk, just playing devil's advocate, not saying it's true for you, but is there the risk of that relationship losing anything in those gaps, do you think?
I don't think so, because if you know genuinely your value with that person, like for an example, I have my best friends, my good girlfriends, I have my close friends and even with my best friends, I'm just going to name that too. Like I would consider family. And then I have like other friends who I still also consider family, but also at the same time, it doesn't lose its family. And then I have like, it doesn't lose its risk because I hold the value of that. Like as long as you are connected to me, there's no risk when it comes down to us. Like there are going to be some disagreements. Like we're going to always agree to disagree, right? But guess what? We're going to agree to disagree, and that's growth. Sometimes some things is going to get uncomfortable, but that's growth. You got to address those things. And I think sometimes we get to a place where we are afraid to address those because some people can feel like they don't like confrontation. And I would say that I'm a person that does not like confrontation, but I also don't like that ill feeling where we're standing and we're stuck in the middle.
Mm.
Like, let's address the elephant in the room. Why is it like this? Like,
Right.
what's going on?
Right.
So yeah, I'm a communicator. So at the end of the day, we're not about to walk around each other, even in my own house with my husband. I'm sorry, I'm gonna name it, and he's here. He hears me. That's okay. But we're not about to sit here and be mad at each other every day. We gotta lay in the bed together and we're gonna be silent. You gonna turn over to the other side? No, turn over. Talk to me.
Turn this way.
So, like, you know, when it comes down to like that, no, it does not lose its value. At least in my eyes. At least with my intentions, no.
Okay, I love that. We have some people in the chat. Key is here with us.
I can't even see the comments, but y'all keep them coming.
Royce, thank you for joining us. Oh, my cousin Greg is on. Thank you for joining us. Key said it's important for us to ask ourselves, how do we deal with grief and loss? What would it be like to lose that person? And who you get to watch move about the world without you. What do you need from others when you grow apart or fall apart? I think that's really, those are also good points as well. When I read that comment, I totally agree with you. It's like when you're in the beginning stages of something, everything's all wonderful and great, and you're connecting and you're finding out what your commonalities are and all of that. And I have very few friends that I just like friends for the sake of being around people. Like I try to be purposeful when I make connections with people. So I try to find, okay, now if you're just looking for somebody to go party with, then that's, you know, that's totally fine. I'm not knocking it. But for me, I need something a little bit deeper. So in the beginning, you're doing a lot of that upfront work. And like to your point, you're not thinking about down the road that this person could literally just be in my life for a season, right? And that person is just there to teach you whatever it is you need to learn. And then, you know, their purpose then is to move on. And I think where we get into trouble is when we allow people to stay in our lives beyond their expiration date, and we are the ones who are not letting it go, right? And God is very clearly laying out to you through a number of things and signs that this person is not supposed to be in your life anymore or connected to you anymore, and we are the ones who still trying to hold on, still trying to justify, right, the relationship and the choice, because nobody wants things to break down, right? Nobody wants things to fall apart. But I think we need to reframe it as not a breaking down or a falling apart, but it's just a transition. It's just the next phase. It's just like, let's flip that narrative, because falling apart, breaking down, broken, trauma, drama, like all that stuff is negative, and you don't want to associate, you know, with negativity. But if we think about it more in those terms of we've connected, we've learned what we needed to learn from each other, and now it's time to move on. Now, in some cases, you are going to have those people who they're just toxic and they're just, you know, it's not going to be an amicable split and this mutual agreeing and this maturity on both sides. And so you are going to have some of those types of relationships as well. But I think for the most part, it really requires both parties coming together, coming to the table with maturity and saying, what is the best possible outcome? What am I looking for going into this? I'll share a transparent moment. Someone was telling me, you know, I had confided in with someone about, you know, I wanted to kind of sit down with someone and talk to them. And they were like, okay, look, what is your best outcome? What are you looking to accomplish? And I'm like, well, you know, I want them to hear me out. Like, I want them to see where I'm at, you know, and kind of let's talk through where the relationship is, like not to rehash history, because honestly, I just don't have time for that anymore. But it's just like, okay, let's take this moment from where we are now and what we're going to do moving forward. And this person framed a thought to me that at the time I got defensive about. And at the time I had a hard time receiving it and seeing it. But later I appreciated the perspective. Was what if your outcome is you're not approaching the conversation with the best outcome in mind? Because if the outcome is just for you, what you need coming to that table, and you're not thinking about what that other person may need, it's about two people coming together. It's not just about you sitting down, airing out all of your grievances and that person hearing you out and then you getting the apology that you feel like you deserve and then everyone walks away. It's about two people. You might need to receive and hear from them parts where they felt, hurt. They felt, some type of way about what you did. So it's a reciprocal thing. It's a give and a take.
Two things, and I'm gonna hold the first part because it was something that you said in the beginning, but to the last part before I forget it, how do you go into addressing that if the other person doesn't see that there's something to address? Like, for an example, like you might feel like something is going on, something's weird, we're not in this place where I thought we were, and something in our whatever's happening in our relationship is causing hurt, but to them it might not be. So
Mm-hmm.
how could you hear from the other person to know, like, the outcomes? How can you gain the outcome? How can it be reciprocated to gain that outcome if only one person feels that way?
And that's why I said both parties have to be mature and come together. I think you need to make the decision before you approach this person. You have to, because you know who this person is, right? So are they, oh, look at that little thumbs up. Um, if they're going to be someone who can be receptive. Is this a person who's mature to have this conversation? And in some cases, if those answers are no, I don't think you can have the conversation. You can have the conversation, but you're not going to get the outcome that you're probably looking for. You're not going to get the best outcome for both of you.
Then
That's what I would say.
it goes to the transition of something that I know we're going to bring up in terms of that closure, right? But before we jump into that, there was something that you said in the beginning. Oh my gosh! And I didn't write down because I'm also jotting notes as you're talking so that I don't forget something. But I remember a previous live that I joined you on, which was entitled "Friends with Benefits."
Yes.
And when we discussed
Yes.
that topic of friends with benefits, what we named was the value of the friendships. And so that sticks out more to me because at the end of the day, for me, there is value in every interaction that I have.
Mm.
And that value is something that I see as a growth. Because there's always a growth mindset for me.
Yeah.
So there's always an area of growth because we don't know everything, we don't have everything. So it might be something that you're doing that influences me that I actually truly genuinely hold value in, that I'm like, ooh, I really want to stay connected to this person and I'm going to stay
Mm.
connected to this person and I want this person in my life and I hold true and genuine value with this person. So this is who I consider friend, or this is who
Mm.
I consider like a relationship or a bond that I want to keep forever.
Yeah.
So it made me think about that in terms of the previous live that we did. We got to bring that back. I just thought about
Listen, people, if you have not watched it's two parts. It's part one and part two of Friends with Benefits. Not the romantic Friends with Benefits, but definitely what is the benefit of the friendship? What is the value of the friendship? Please go back on my website or on my Facebook page and check those out. It was a very successful series, and another reason why I think this live is very engaging. I'm going to call out some comments that I'm seeing in the chat. Is so engaging because I feel like this topic is resonating with people because people are people and we're all humans and we're all individuals, but at the same time we're all kind of dealing with common themes, and I feel like this theme of relationships, friendships is just a common thing that everybody can tap into. So Royce says, the older I get, I'm learning who is meant to be in my life permanently and who is temporary, and learn a lesson from each one. That is so difficult. Oh, hi, Auntie. My aunt, my uncle are watching
Hi, Auntie.
and listening in. My cousin Greg says that I'm opinionated, I guess, that all relationships are not meant to be permanent. The universe always guides us if we are inclined to hear. So he agrees with us, and I really is a lesson that I had to learn in these last couple of years. I would say maybe last 2 to 3 years, is that seasons change. Seasons change. People come and go. I am somebody who, like I said before, I don't just kind of have arbitrary connections with people. So if I invite you into my life And definitely, if you have been in this house, you mean something more to me than just a hey, how you doing, fly by night associate, keep it moving type of person. So it's difficult for me
Mm-hmm.
because I'm someone who loves very hard. I connect in with people and I lean in.
Mm-hmm.
I put investment in with people. We cannot underestimate the currency of time. Time is something you will never get back,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if you're not um, financially investing in someone, you're putting your time in with someone. You're helping them think through things, or even just sitting on the phone giving advice. Like, don't dismiss the fact that you've given wise counsel. That is an investment in someone's life. That is a nurturing of that friendship, and that's seconds and time that you'll never ever be able to get back, right? And so I think that is very important to the quality of people that you connect with, because are you just giving all of this away on people who cannot appreciate what you have to give?
I want to read Emmanuel's comment because I think this kind of hit from me in terms of where I am. And he says it takes both parties. As you grow in your individual life, you start to pay attention to the actual value of each relationship. And then you make the necessary adjustments according to
Mm,
the direction you are going.
mm,
That is the place of where I am. And these are through, relationships that I've developed or formed years. I mean, that I didn't think would transition. And I'm talking about through, outside relationships, my professional relationship, my personal relationships. And, it hurts. It kinda hurts. It hurts. But I think I know we're gonna shift into that closure part because I can speak to how I have been able to maneuver through them in terms of what Emmanuel said was the adjustment. Um, but I don't want to move and jump ahead. But I just thought that his comment itself was so
yes.
key because we do make necessary adjustments, and this comes through our growth. This comes through maturity. This comes through just life. Life has to keep moving at the end of the day, right? You got to keep going. So what do?
Yes.
You can reflect on a lot of different things and then you learn the lesson. So yeah.
So I think maybe we need to hurry up and move this so we can get to this closure part, because Kiwan is also mentioning closure as well.
Oh, let's get to
Um,
it.
so we need to get to that closure piece, and then maybe we come back to the top, because I did want to read one more comment that Derek had shared on the original post.
Let's go to that comment. I know what comment you're talking about.
Okay, let's go there first. And this, when we read this, I was like, wow, Derek, you are in the one. That's Derek. If you're
It
on,
was like boom.
if you're gonna watch the replay, this right here, we were like, okay, yeah. So Derek says, this is on my original post. Um, Transitions often trigger or mirror abandonment. It takes proper and honest communication from both parties to process the change. Unfortunately, it's easier for many to display anger versus saying, I'm going to miss you and figure out the new normal. However, anger is always a secondary emotion. So the root of that is hurt, especially if it's very abrupt. So, too often, we don't know how much we mean to people because it goes unexpressed until the circumstance changes. There is so much. I mean, we could do a whole live just on that.
Just that comment alone.
Just that comment alone.
I mean, I think the first part of that is the abandonment. Like sometimes
Yes.
what happens in our personal life can sometimes trickle into the relationships that you foster. Because what happened in our personal lives or childhood, let me go back. In our childhood experiences, you don't realize that if they go unaddressed, you don't realize how they can hinder or affect our current relationships or the relationships that you fostered in your adult life.
Yes.
So I think that's the abandonment was the part that, and even when I'm thinking about that, like when you're thinking about the abandonment, it's like their intentions might be genuinely pure. However, they don't realize, like, dang, I really got some stuff going on with me that's affecting some of these relationships. But how do they may not know how to address them. I mean, and again, I'm speaking for myself, fatherless child, raised in an only child home, single parent. longing for certain things from that. My mom was great at providing, but was not able to provide all. So, there were some things that I had to address where even growing up, just being like this independent person. I mean, I could be the first person to say this in terms of like, in growing up, I was so independent that I didn't need anybody to do anything for me. So when it came down to my husband coming in, it was like, what? I don't need, I got it. Yeah, I'm good.
You're like, let this man do this.
I had to learn. I had to learn. I had to come into grips with myself. Like, all right, move. Like, stop. Get yourself together. You can't do that. And I just think that for some people, they either have not got to that place, and it then affects the relationships that they build or they have fostered or created.
Yeah, that while you were talking reminded me of something that Kiwan said to us a few weeks ago about, have you considered that this person is going through something that has actually nothing to do with you? And so that is now bleeding in and seeping in. To a certain extent, they might be taking it out on you, knowingly or unknowingly, right? And so when he said that, it hit home for me, because I think that we have a tendency to internalize things and get defensive. I know I definitely do. Yeah. So it takes a minute to pause and be like, okay, wait, stop, reflect. Is this a personal attack, or is this person just going through? I think that's something that we have to keep in mind too, as we're transitioning things, because everybody's dealing with something. Nobody on this planet is like walking around, sunshine and daisies. So everybody's going through something, and some people handle it well and some people do not handle it well.
Right.
So I think that's really important. Deja says, it's important to let go of certain relationships when it starts to go against your purpose or your calling. Ooh, sometimes people can hinder that for us. That was good one, Deja. I wanted to call that out. That was definitely good. And that goes back to something I said earlier. I'm a very purpose-driven person. So I'm kind of
back on that comment. I'm sorry. Like, I'm like reading it again.
Why are we connected? Why are we here? Are we just here to have a good time, or are you here to pour in? Because I want to pour in. I don't want to just have arbitrary friendships and relationships with people. Yeah. So I think that was really good. So wait, but back to Derek's comment really quick. I wanted to get to this piece. He said, unfortunately, it's easier to display anger versus I'm going to miss you. And the underlying source of the anger, the root cause of that is hurt. And I'm going to be very transparent with you. Reevaluating some relationships right now in my life, and I had to identify that emotion. And that, let me tell you something, admitting that you are hurt or you got your feelings hurt, that is not something that I think anybody wants to admit. Nobody wants to be hurt, first of all. But then to really have to be honest with myself and look past the anger, look past the defensiveness, and look past the justifying and trying to rationalize and rack my brain as to what went wrong, and really say, girl, you got your feelings hurt. That's what this is all about. You got your feelings hurt. And having to live with that, sit with that, and be like, oh my God, because me getting my feelings hurt to me meant I was open. And anytime I open, that right there is a vulnerable place. It's a scary place, because you are opening literally the door for someone to come in with weapons and just take you out. And you have to trust that they're not going to do that. You have to open the door with that trust in mind. So for me, the anger, the confusion, the rationalizing, the underlying part of that was hurt. And then the source of that hurt, or the reason why I was hurt, is because I realized I had opened myself up. And that kind of made me mad. Because I don't like to get hurt. I don't like to open myself up to people.
No, and I totally understand that too. I think for me, I would agree. And I think I agree to an extent of where I felt it depends on the level of the friendship, where if going back to the part of if that person had a purpose for me, right? So the same as you, I have experienced these transitions in relationships. But I think for me, one of the things that I didn't fester and stay in it to like really deal with the emotional side of it, or really so much of the anger side of it, because I just started making adjustments. Like I started making adjustments in my life, like what became a priority for me. And I just really kind of gave most of my focus and attention to what was priority in my life. If I had these relationships that already like had a purpose and a value, I just made those flourish more. And what ultimately was in a transitioning stage, but not realizing it was in a transitioning stage, I'm good for just like, okay, whatever, I don't care.
We know. I'm like, wait, Mo, you can't cut him off like that yet.
I just feel like I don't care. And I'm gonna be honest, like at some point, like I care, and it doesn't say that I don't care about the person. I care, but it was like I'm not going to sit in that. I'm not going to sit in that because I've been hurt before. And I've been in a place of where I've been open, and I got to a place where I'm no longer going to put myself in this place of being open or being hurt. I cannot. I got two little people that's looking at me. I got to maintain a home with, for my family, with my husband, while also maintain a career that forces where I'm required to be strong to build other young people up in this education field. I was just like, no, I'm not doing it. So even though I'm going through these transitions, I got to teach the other people, like, listen, you got to keep going. You can't stay there. You got to stay strong. You got to keep moving. Even though I may have not myself got the proper closure that I think that I should have gotten. But also at the same time, it was just like, whatever, I don't care. Brush it off, move on to the next.
Wow.
Not saying that that's a good thing.
But I also think that's kind of a skill, right? Because I'm not great at that. I'm not great with that. And I've shared with you, and you had to talk me off of a couple of ledges because I wanted to dial a few numbers and text a few numbers, and you like my way. So I'm, it takes me a little bit longer
that's me
to process and come to terms and come to grips with where it is, especially when you interact with that person. Often it's nothing if you guys are across the country or you don't live in the same town or what have you, but if it's someone you interact, if it's a colleague, a coworker, I know we all have experiences with different personalities at work. And if you have to encounter that person, it's like you're continuing to re-trigger yourself. So you've got to continue to remind yourself about where you are and your boundaries, and focus on your healing and focus on your moving on. So I'm gonna be honest, transparent, I'm not great with just dropping it and letting it go. I hold a little bit of a grudge sometimes. But I will say I am cognizant of it now, and I'm trying to get better with it. It's kind of not the way I'm wired, but I think when you are mindful of it and you have some self-awareness, then you can start putting in some strategies into being better. I just wanted to call out like a couple of comments. So my aunt said, sometimes it starts with self accountability, self-reflection, self-vulnerability. Oh my God, vulnerability, that word. It's not easy to stand in the mirror and say XYZ. Even in adversity, relationships can teach us and mature us further.
Absolutely.
Kiwan says, hurt is a part of us. We will spend more energy avoiding harm than learning how to deal with it. That right there.
Yes.
Can we pause?
That's me. I will avoid them. Okay, whatever. I don't care.
Can we pause? It's just like, I'd rather run from this and not deal with this. But what are some of those tools that you can do? Kiwan, if you have any tools or resources.
You said track him in. Kiwan, I wish we could tap you into this.
Listen, Kiwan.
Maybe the next series is something. Part 2.
You might the next series. Don't
add Kiwan on in this.
Look, don't put it past me. I'll send you a guest link right now. You can come up in here right now.
Are you ready, Kiwan? Are you ready?
But Kiwan is like such a great resource. I think that Kiwan, you're somebody who I feel is very self-aware. And I think that you always give great wise counsel and insight. So I think that the running from hurt piece versus stopping and dealing with it is one thing, but it's like, how do you deal with it? Because everybody's not self-aware, emotionally intelligent. Going back to that emotional intelligence piece, I did an MG Live on emotional intelligence. If you have not checked that out, go ahead and check it out. It's a few MG lives ago. I'll try to drop the link in the chat, but even just being in an emotional place where you have the capacity to do the inner work is hard. Like, that piece right there for me is not there yet, guys. Not there yet.
You will get there. You will get there.
You want to move to this this closure piece?
We can. We can.
I'm ready to get to this closure piece because I think that this is this is something right here. And then I also wanted you to touch on that other part about the transitioning of co-parents. But how do you get closure? That's just the question. It's very simple. My answer is that you may or may not. And I have experienced transitioning friendships that were successful and were done in a healthy way, where both parties were able to come together, talked about where we are and what being in each other looked like Kiwan said earlier, is the absence of this person, would that affect your life in a negative way or in a positive way, right? And so do we even want to still be friends? That's like the first question. Do you want to be here? Do I want to be here? Yes. Okay, let's figure out what that looks like for us now going forward. And these were meaningful, like substantial friendships in my life. I'm not talking about 6 months. I'm talking about decades, plural, long friendships. Still friends to this day, but we did go through transition because these friendships formed, in my teens and in my 20s. And so who Maya is at 42 is not 18, 24-year-old Maya. So we had to go through those transitions. And we're talking about major life milestones, people having kids, people getting married, people moving away. So distance is also now playing a factor, right? So I've been on that side of having healthy transition. And then I've been on the side where I did not have a healthy transition and not getting the closure, in a relationship, from my past, and never getting the apology that you need, honestly. So now what happens is, because you don't get to vent with that, you don't get to vent, you don't get to talk out your issues, you don't get to lay all your cards on the table, you guys don't get to hash it out. You now have to reconcile all of that stuff, all that baggage within yourself. And what it did was it just like prolonged the process, and it really just dragged it out for me versus, all right, we're going to sit down, have a conversation, for better or for worse, we're going to walk away from this table understanding where we are. And you just don't get that with everybody. So I will say sometimes you get closure and sometimes you don't. I think it's really unfortunate and quite frankly unfair for some people to not kind of come together with that maturity, because it just messes people up. It just really prolongs the process, and it's triggering, and it brings up a lot of things that you could just lay to bed and lay to rest. So
I would agree in terms of you don't always have that closure, and then there are some situations where you would have the closure, especially if the person can be is at the level of maturity that you are at, and can be self-reflective and can have some accountability and be vulnerable in a space where we are able to discuss like what hurt. You hurt me, or you hurt me, or no, you hurt me. I think also.
We lost Munira, guys. Oh no, I think her internet must have gone out. Well, while she is hopefully coming back into the live, I'm gonna text her right now. Oh, there she is. She's coming back. You're coming back. Hold on. She's coming back. You're back.
I don't know what happened.
Just dropped. It's fine.
I just clicked this little camera. Okay. I don't even know where I left off, but I was agreeing to the fact that you can get closure, and there are some instances where you do not gain the closure, and agreeing with you in terms of if two people are at that same maturity level, we can be able to have that closure. I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments, where we could be able to have that closure to discuss like who hurt who and who didn't hurt the other person. I think ultimately the other thing that I was going to say is even if you don't have that closure with that person, let's just say that you don't get it, always assume the best of the person. That is just where I go, like, to say, okay, you know what? We have not been able to address this weird space that we are in, or we have not been able to address this place of where we are just no longer connected. But I'm going to always assume the best for you. I'm going to continue to keep praying for you. I'm going to continue to keep rooting for you, that all is well and that you are blessed and you are able to gain the desires of your heart and all of those great things, even though I might not be a part of those amazing places and milestones in your life. So at the end of the day, I'm going to always assume the best for you. And that's it. And that's all.
Wow, that's really evolved of you. I just want you to know. That's very evolved. But I think that's a good standpoint to come from. And then it kind of made me think about an earlier comment, sort of that Kiwan and Derek both brought up, but another piece about keeping people around beyond their expiration date is like grieving the loss of that person. I think we don't do that enough either. It's like, even if you're doing it in a healthy way, right? Is okay, wow, this person was a big part of my life, or was had this kind of contribution or this impact on me. And it being okay to reflect on that and being sad. Like,
or what also comes up is like other people like, hey, what happened to such and such?
Oh,
you don't hang around such and such no more.
What do you say? Like, what do you even say?
Such and such is doing great. No, we haven't spoken lately, but they are doing really well and they are doing great.
That brings up another point. Putting your business out to other people, whether asked or not asked. What are your thoughts around that? People just, because I'm thinking about trauma and drama. Drama being inviting outside opinions into a situation that people weren't a part of your friendship, people weren't a part of your relationship, but now you want to invite their opinion in at the breakdown of it, or the transition of it, excuse me. What are your thoughts around pettiness and drama? And
I think it's a matter of you as an individual allowing the voice of other opinions to be said. So if you're going to talk to me about what someone else said, you know what? I'd rather you just keep that for you. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to know anything that somebody else said. I will say the teenage Munira would have really kind of focused more on what other people said to now the almost this age adult. I was going to throw my age out there.
What age is that?
Almost 40.
Come on, 40.
Ain't quite there yet. But almost a 40-year-old woman. I'm just at the place where, you know what? Your opinions is not welcome for me. Like, you can share them, but I don't care.
You really, I think once you get to a certain age, maybe, even though age does not equal.
And it's so funny that I say that.
I don't have time for that.
I don't mean to cut you off, Maya, because when Morgan was 6 months and I was starting this job, working in social services, I used to talk to a coworker, and I remember this. Tony, if you ever tap into this, I remember something that you said to me. I used to talk to her a lot, and I used to say like, "Oh, this happened with my friends. This happened with my friends." And she was like in her age of, probably at the age of where I was, or probably younger, but close, wisdom, much older than I was. And I used to say this, I was like, "Oh, this," she was like, "Girl." When you get to a certain age, none of that is going to even matter. It's not even going to matter.
Yes.
And I was like, what? She probably ain't got no friends. Like, I was just at the place. I was like, what? No, my friends is my life. These are like, this is where I was. Like, I thrived off of the relationships that I had with my friends. And I was just like, what is she talking about? And to now, where I am right now. And I'm just like, I don't care.
I think that's very evolved of you. Royce said, it sucks when you are unable to get closure. However, take the lesson learned from it and not repeat it again. So I think that is a good tip. Kiwan, you are just dropping these. I mean, you were really just remember how you share about others is a reflection of you. So if relationships evolve, your response matters more than your reaction to the situation. So I definitely agree with that. I think if someone is talking to you about someone else, you best believe they are talking to somebody else about you. That is a reflection of that person. So if
Absolutely.
your relationship is in transition, um, and then you then go and start talking to other people about things that are private, things that were said to you in confidence, I think you really, really, really need to take a step back and reflect on what your motives are, um, in that situation, because that is not helpful. That is not helpful. That is not going to bring a positive resolution. And if you are encountering that, or if you are the perpetuator of that, just I would just say really, really just don't do it.
Yeah.
It's just don't do it. And it's a natural like kind of reflex, right? It's kind of like what Derek was alluding to. Like it's so easy to just be angry. Well, it's so easy if somebody wrongs you to go tell the guess what this person did? Guess what? It's easy to want to say that to other people, but you gotta remember what is the best outcome, right? Going back to that. What are you looking to get out of this? So Munira, you said we were going to be on here for 30 minutes and we've been on here for
You
45.
also said we were going to be for less. So, but I can close out with, my.
Well, wait, I want you to answer that question about.
Yes, that part.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's
We're on the
close
same
out.
page.
All right, let me ask this question for you. Okay. So, Munira, can you talk to everyone about the transitioning of a relationship into now a co-parenting relationship, for all of those who are parents out there and who now have to co-parent because there is a child involved? Some people have great co-parenting relationships, some people don't. So, could you speak to that perspective?
Yes. For me to be a mom of two, I have a 14-year-old where ultimately with my 14-year-old, pretty much for the most part, single parent with Morgan, who is such a great and amazing kid, still growing, to now having a 16-month-old, within my marriage. I think ultimately, and then, some of the things that I could think of, it's a dual agreement between me and my husband, right? So now that we are able to co-parent, we both understand the needs of our child or our children, so to speak, because even though, biologically, we are blended family. So at the end of the day, his daughter, Morgan, Micah, we are all one family, so our children. So I think ultimately it is having the understanding of what we want for our children and trust. So like ultimately when it comes down to like, again, I don't know it all. And Byron, he doesn't know it all. But when we came into our relationship, we both had daughters, roughly around the same age. And when it came down to like how I parent my daughter, it was easy for him to kind of get and jump into like, okay, I see what's happening and how you are trying to upbring your daughter and I see what you're doing. So when it comes down to now with Micah, it's like, yeah, you know what? He can't do this. We don't want to allow him to do this. This is we make these decisions together versus, in the beginning, I was making decisions primarily by myself. So now with my husband, it's like, you know what? I have to consult a lot of things. So even when it came down to, and I'm just going to name this, Maya's the godmom of like when it comes down to like making decisions around like who is the best fit in terms of influential to our son's life. And not only just when it comes down to just like that, we have other friends that's like, you know what, we trust that this person can also care for our children in our absences or whatever it may be. I think the biggest thing, and I don't want to go too much in the tangent, is what we understand is the need, what that trust looks like, and just creating that dual agreement for both of us to make the best decision for them.
And then how would you say the dynamic is with the other parents of those children? So, can you give any sort of tips or perspective for those who are having challenging co-parenting relationships and have had to transition now into that co-parenting because perhaps you were together, perhaps you were never together, but at the end of the day, co-parenting is a very specific type of relationship, right? And so how does the dynamic change when you are co-parenting and you're in a current relationship or even marriage, with other people?
I can speak to that for, with my daughter. So, even though her dad and I are not, or we're not, together, but we live in separate homes and both of us are married and we have our, married relationships. It it all boils down to us being able to agree. And it goes back to just us being able to agree together. So, and I could just use an example, like Morgan's up at the age where she likes to, Mommy, I want to go to the Sweet 16 party. And, you know, when it comes out of this, well, I'm like, I'm not driving you there. Because father. So then she'll reach out to her dad, and then he'll text me like, hey, is it all right? Listen, hey, I'm all right with it. Can you pick her up at this time? If that's the time that you want her to be, we agree. So it gets to this place of like, okay, listen, I need her home at this time. Can you pick her up at this time? It's the trust. It goes back to agreeing. And I think ultimately, even though we may have differences personally together, I don't think that it is great to have that interfere when it comes down to the children. You got to separate. You ultimately have to separate. So for the sake of the children, you have to be able to work together to foster. Sorry, you might hear Micah crying.
What's wrong with my godson? What you doing to him over there?
I don't know what's happening. But you got to be able to agree to be able to build that child up to, you know, be able to become mature and make decisions on, you know, for themselves. So I would just say, like, it goes back to what I just said, being able to build trust, have that dual agreement, and understanding the needs of, you know, your children.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that perspective. And I think just some final thoughts as we are about to leave you all is because I don't want this to just be a venting session where we're just, you know, kind of throwing out things, but like, what are some solutions, right? So some takeaways for me are you need two mature parties coming together. And maybe it's more than two, right? Because maybe it's 3 or 4 or whatever, however many people are in your circle or are in this friendship or relationship. Hopefully you're just having a relationship between 2 people.
Right.
Oh my God,
what is happening with
I don't know. It's my computer. We got thumbs up, we got balloons happening. I don't know what's happening. But 2 mature you know, or all mature parties coming together to you know, accomplish a common goal. And then what does that best outcome look like for you both, right? And not being self-centered and selfish and saying, well, this is what I need and this is all that I need and I don't care what you need out of it. But really also being receptive to the other person and their feelings. Because one thing I've had to kind of process is you can't tell someone how they feel. How they feel is how they feel.
Yeah.
And, you know, not to say that you need to take ownership. There does need to be an accountability piece there, but you're not, you don't have to, you know, take that weight on, especially, you know, the situation best. So if it's someone who's gaslighting you, first of all, gaslighting, that's a whole,
that's a different story.
That's a different live.
Yeah.
That's a different live. And that might be for April, gaslighting. But, in general, just in like kind of general, speaking in general terms, you don't have to take ownership of that, but you do have to respect the fact that that person feels how they feel.
Yeah.
And perhaps you played a part in how they feel, and you have to be kind of reflective. If it's a moment where you have to say, listen, I get how you feel. I acknowledge how you feel. Let me just take that away and process it and come back or whatever, instead of just saying, well, I didn't do that. Why do you feel like that? This isn't, you can't invalidate someone like that. So really coming to the table, being understanding, having that reciprocal outcome where both parties can walk away. And also for me is not letting people, letting's not the right word, but not allowing people to stay around past their expiration date. Let that person go. If that person is there for a season, you learn the lesson you need, just let it go, no matter how hard it might be. Don't let people hang around past their expiration date.
Yeah, I agree.
So what about you? Any final parting thoughts?
I think ultimately, even when the relationships have transitioned, always assume the best of the person. I think it goes back to the thing that Kiwan said of like, you know, what your responses are or what you say of this person is more powerful than, you know, your reaction to certain things. But I think ultimately, even in the transitioning stage of relationships that you thought that you can be able to foster and have forever, always assume the best for the person. You know, when your heart is pure and when your intentions are well, like, you know, there is no confusion around that. You know what? At the end of the day, it ran its course. It expired. You know, we're not there, but I see you. I see you and I see that you are doing great things.
Mm.
Even if they aren't doing great things that you think are great, or the things that are great, period, still assume the best. That's all you can do. Still assume the best. And I think I say this in my professional career when I'm, working with my team and things like that. You always assume the best of the person. And that kind of stuck with me for more of my personal life. You know what? I need to always assume the best of the other people as well. I think that's just how I would close. Always assume the best.
That's a major takeaway for me, from you to me. That is something I'm receiving that, because I definitely do not do that. So thank you for that, because that really helped me. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight, spending some time. We only budgeted 30 minutes and we we far exceeded that, but I kind of knew we were, because this conversation was really engaging, and thank you for dropping your comments and your insights and your questions in the chat. Continue to do that for my replay people. We'll get notified when you do, and we can keep the conversation going. And definitely, I think we need to do a part 2. Like, give us a peace emoji or a two. These balloons are killing me. Give us a peace emoji or drop a 2 in the comments so that we know that you guys want us to do part 2, and we'll look at part 2, because I think this is a robust topic that we can definitely continue to talk about. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and we will see you all on the next video.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Bye.